Brandon Miller was the kind of guy who never truly believed he could be great. He grew up in a small town in Indiana, where dreams often stayed dreams. His dad worked in a factory, and his mom cleaned houses. They were good people, honest, kind, and simple. Brandon didn't grow up hearing about success stories or believing he could ever live one. But something deep inside him always whispered that maybe, just maybe, he was meant for more. He remembered being 12 years old, sitting on the porch with his grandpa. The sun was setting behind the cornfields, casting a golden light over everything. "Brandon," his grandpa had said, pointing to the sky, "there's no limit up there. And there's no limit in here either." He tapped his chest. "If you believe you can do something and you work hard at it, you can achieve anything." At the time, Brandon nodded. But he didn't fully understand. It wasn't until years later that those words would come roaring back into his life like a thunderstorm. After graduating high school with average grades and no college plans, Brandon worked odd jobs, stocking shelves, flipping burgers, hauling boxes in a warehouse. Life felt like a blur of paychecks and tired mornings. He watched his friends leave town, move to cities, start businesses, join the military, or go to college. Brandon stayed behind. He told himself he didn't have the money or the smarts, but really it was fear. Fear of failing. Fear of hoping. One morning, he looked in the mirror and barely recognized himself. At 26, he felt older than he should have. His shoulders slouched and his eyes lacked spark. That's when something clicked. He remembered his grandpa's words. "No limit up there. No limit in here." He sat down and wrote a single sentence on a yellow sticky note. "I can achieve anything I'm willing to fight for." He didn't know what he wanted exactly, but he knew he didn't want this. So he made a choice. A single choice that changed his life. He decided to believe in himself. The first step was small. He signed up for a night class at a local community college. Introduction to Business. He sat in the back, nervous and out of place among 19-year-olds. But he listened. He took notes. He started to dream again. He began waking up earlier. He stopped wasting hours scrolling on his phone and started listening to podcasts and audiobooks. One by Tony Robbins hit him hard. "Success is 80% mindset, 20% mechanics." That line became his motto. Brandon realized he didn't need to know everything right away. He just had to believe he could learn. Brandon set goals. Tiny ones at first. He aimed to finish the semester with a B. He got an A-. Then he took 2 more classes. Then 4. He started hanging out at the library, reading about marketing, leadership, and finance. He studied stories of people who had started with nothing, people just like him. One night, he stayed late after class and spoke with his professor, Mrs. Dawson, a kind but no-nonsense woman in her 50s who had run her own business for 20 years. "I'm not sure what I want to do yet," Brandon confessed. "But I feel like I'm waking up for the first time." Mrs. Dawson smiled. "Brandon, most people go their whole lives asleep. If you're waking up, then keep going. Don't stop." That conversation changed everything. Brandon saved money from his warehouse job and eventually launched a side hustle, designing custom t-shirts with motivational slogans. He called it Limitless Threads. The first few months were rough. He sold 10 shirts total. He wanted to quit. But instead he went back to learning. He studied social media marketing, watched YouTube tutorials, and even cold emailed influencers asking for advice. One day, a popular local fitness trainer wore one of his shirts in a video that went viral. Overnight, his store sold out. That was the spark. Brandon reinvested every dollar. He printed more shirts, expanded into hoodies and gym bags, and slowly built a brand. He kept working his day job, but now he had something more. A reason to wake up excited. He didn't chase overnight success. He chased consistency. Every failure taught him something. Every late night fueled his grit. He wasn't the smartest, richest, or most connected guy in the room. But he was the most determined. By the time he was 30, Brandon had quit his job and was running Limitless Threads full-time. His brand had thousands of followers on Instagram and customers in 23 states. He began speaking at high schools, sharing his story with students who felt stuck the way he once did. Belief, he would tell them, is the seed of every success story. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't believe in yourself, it means nothing. The moment I started believing, the world began to open up. At one school, a nervous sophomore came up after Brandon's speech and said, "I don't think I'm good at anything." Brandon knelt down, looked the kid in the eyes and said, "You don't need to be good at something yet. You just need to be curious enough to start. Try everything. Keep going. You'll find your fire." Brandon's story spread online. A journalist wrote a feature about his journey. Soon he was invited to speak at conferences, podcasts, and even a TEDx event. He shared how growing up in a small town with no connections didn't stop him. What mattered was the decision to start, and to keep going. He talked about the nights he almost quit, the failures that nearly crushed him, and the moments of self-doubt. But most importantly, he talked about the power of taking one small step every day toward your vision. By age 35, Limitless Threads was a six-figure business with a growing team. Brandon hired locally, giving jobs to people who'd been overlooked. He started a foundation that gave scholarships to young entrepreneurs from small towns. But Brandon never forgot where he came from. He still drove by the old house he grew up in, still visited his high school gym and watched the local team play. He would sit on the same porch his grandpa once sat and whisper, "Thank you," because everything began with a decision, a moment of belief. Small spark. Brandon proved something powerful. You can achieve anything. But you have to be willing to believe before others believe in you. Before you feel ready. Fail and still get back up. Learn from every mistake. And never ever stop moving forward. Years later, when he wrote his first book, Brandon titled it "No Limit in Here." He told the world that there is no such thing as a too late start. No such thing as not enough, if your effort is consistent. And no such thing as impossible if you're willing to grow, stretch, and adapt. His story didn't end with financial success. That was just a chapter. What truly mattered was who he became in the process. A man who rose above doubt, overcame fear, and proved to himself that greatness lives in every one of us. And now he passes that truth to you. Wherever you are, however stuck you feel, whatever your age or circumstance, you can achieve anything. Start with belief. Start today.